Good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference. My name is Wagaki Vishnevsky. I'm the media officer of the UNCCD and your moderator for this afternoon's press conference. Today and tomorrow, ministers and heads of various intergovernmental organizations will be in the high-level segment. At the end of this month, the Secretary General's Climate Action Summit will take place in New York. Our panel today will elaborate further on the statements they delivered in plenary and share their thoughts about the COP14 high-level segment and Climate Action Summit. Our panelists are COP14 President Prakash Javadekar. Well, it's not working. Very good. UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohamed, and with them is UNCCD Executive Secretary Mr. Ibrahim Tiao. They will make brief remarks and then the floor will be opened for questions. COP14 President, please note it's COP14 President. You have the floor.
सबको बहुत बहुत नमस्कार. I am very happy to welcome all the press here. As you have already listened to the open session where Prime Minister of India gave his very passionate and concrete speech in form of India's commitments also. The one new point which is said, and that I must interpret you, is our earlier commitment of land degradation treatment was, we took 13 million hectares of target in Bonn challenge. Then we improved upon it by 8 million and made it 21 million during the next meeting. Now today, Prime Minister declared 26 million hectares of land which we will, degraded land we will restore. This object of restoration of land is now scaled up by 5 million hectares. It's very important direction for the world that every country can target more, because if we restore land faster, then our mitigation also is helped. And therefore, this is very landmark achievement. Today we had the high-level segment, a luncheon high-level segment, where many countries spoke and they gave their valuable suggestions. We are now preparing our draft, the draft Delhi Declaration Statement is practically ready. There will be final comments coming from stakeholders. The discussion throughout the last week was very productive. And as I said in my speech, that this is one area where there is more unanimity than divergence of views. But one point was stressed by Prime Minister of St. Vincent, and that was again echoed by many in today's high-level segment, that every climate action has a cost. And therefore, finance commitments, the pledges should be converted into commitments. Then only finance flows will be there and developing countries can also take action. Otherwise, because historical responsibility, respective capabilities, and common but differentiated responsibilities are the three guiding principles on which the whole action plan and the debate revolves. And therefore, I think that today's high-level segment and the opening session and the plenary also Tomorrow also it will continue, and by tomorrow evening we will have Delhi Declaration, which will be not only ambitious but very reality-based declaration, which will be accountable for the actions by various countries. That's all from my side. I'll give just 1 minute in Hindi for her, then I'll give you floor to you. पिछले 2 तारीख से यानी गणेश जी के स्थापना के साथ ही दुनिया में बंजर जमीन को फिर से उपजाऊ जमीन कैसे बना सकते हैं, इसके बारे में एक दुनिया की परिषद शुरू हुई है। ये कॉप कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ पार्टी 14 है और इसमें आज तक जितने भी ये परिषद हुई है, 14वीं ये परिषद है, ये सबसे बड़ी है, जिसमें 190 से ज़्यादा देश है, 100 से ज़्यादा मंत्री है, 8,500 से ज़्यादा डेलीगेट्स है। तो इस परिषद में पिछले 1 सप्ताह से लगातार चर्चा हो रही है। तो आज और कल में हाई लेवल सेगमेंट है, इसमें यह चर्चा होगी। आज भारत के प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जो एक टारगेट बताया, 2 घोषणाएं की। पहली घोषणा ये है कि देहरादून में फॉरेस्ट रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट में हम सेंटर ऑफ एक्सेलेंस करेंगे और उससे अनेक देशों को सैटेलाइट टेक्नोलॉजी से मदद करेंगे। और दूसरी बात उन्होंने कही है कि हमारा जो बंजर ज़मीन का ट्रीटमेंट करने का जो टारगेट है वो पहले 21 लाख था, क्योंकि बॉन्ड चैलेंज में हमने 13 मिलियन हेक्टर्स का टारगेट लिया था। बाद में वो कॉप में ज़्यादा बढ़ गया और 21 हो गया, और अब खुद हमने हमारा टारगेट बढ़ाकर 26 किया है, ताकि 26 मिलियन हेक्टर इज़ टू मच क्वांटिटी एंड वेरी इफेक्टिव एक्शन ऑन पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया। सो भारत ने दुनिया को एक दिशा दी है और उसके तहत एक सभी देश अपना तय करेंगे और उससे ज़्यादा अपना एक कार्यक्रम कि दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन जो इस परिषद का एक सारांश तैयार होगा वो कल घोषित होगा। उसका ड्राफ्ट तैयार हुआ, उसके लिए आज भोजन के साथ चर्चा भी हुई, सभी देशों ने भाग लिया। तो यही आज तक हुआ है। अब मैं UN डेप्यूटी सेक्रेटरी जनरल अमीना जी को बताता हूँ। अमीना जी, आई गिव यू द फ्लोर।
Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Okay, so we thank you very much. Members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Very excited to be here in India. Clearly, this COP14 UNCCD has been one of the best that we've had. The participation and the engagement with the issues on land degradation have been key, with over 8,000 participants, and we can see over 70 ministers. This has certainly been high level. The science is clear, both for land degradation, biodiversity, and climate change. We are in a crisis, and we have to address that. We do know what is driving that. It is man-made, and so therefore we can find the solutions, and many of those have been proffered. So what is the challenge? The challenge has been how to get it done, how to take these solutions and the resources needed at the country level to address this, not in the pilot form that we have seen, because that is proof of concept, but how we go to scale. And those are some of the discussions that we've had today, from the high-level breakfast that we had on the Great Green Wall, which is an initiative in West Africa, from Senegal to Djibouti, adding on some of North Africa and now Southern Africa, to the high-level lunch that the minister chaired, in which we heard many solutions to how we can take up land restoration. And that it is beyond just restoring the land, but restoring it for jobs, ending hunger, mitigating many, many challenges, such as the conflict that we see in many areas. Young people have been a big part of this meeting. Yesterday we had the pleasure of interacting with them. They clearly have the energy and the vision, and they must be a central part of the decision-making going forward, they will be the beneficiaries of jobs, they will be the beneficiaries of a better health, they will be the beneficiaries of shaping the future of tomorrow. But that has to be done now. If we don't take actions on climate, then we won't have a world that we can aspire to with the hope that we have had. The Secretary General will be convening the Climate Action Summit on the 23rd. It is preceded by 2 days of interaction and engagement with young people. They start it. We've had a number of coalitions. One of the coalitions that has been working hard has been, two of them actually, one on resilience and adaptation and the other one on nature-based solutions. And both of these, under leadership of India and several other private sector initiatives, the UN, the United Nations and their agencies, have begun to show where we need to invest in nature-based solutions at the country level, in the cities, in the villages. And we hope that the narrative around this and the commitments that we will see in New York in the next week will take from here those messages, but it will also move from New York back to the cities, back to the villages, where we will have the necessary investments. This is not easy. When we look at the net zero emissions that we would like to see by 2050, clearly the target is for next year at COP26. So far we are not on track. We know where the big issues are. We are trying to ensure that those countries are coming to COP26 with NDCs that have more ambition. Today we heard from India how they've improved upon their Paris Agreement just in terms of afforestation, and I think that is the way to go. Once you start to implement your NDC, you begin to see the possibilities of the ambition. So we really do have to move from talking about our NDCs to implementing them, to knowing where the gaps are. Last thing I will say is that this is not being dealt with in a silo. What we are saying is that climate change, land degradation, biodiversity, these are all an integrated whole and must have that response, but they must also align themselves with the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the bigger framework around which we hope to leave no one behind and ensure that one has a life of prosperity and peace. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to open the floor because the Executive Secretary was fairly generous in asking that the two principals speak and then we go into the question and answer. But in the process of the question and answer, he would be willing to make some comments. So I now open the floor. I will do it in a set of rounds in order to ensure that we stay on track and in time. Yes, please. Please introduce yourself before you ask the question, and please indicate who you're directing your question to. Thank you.
I'm Joydeep Gupta from the Third Pole. My question is to Mr. Javadekar. So we heard that in last week during the negotiations and in the meetings, two issues came up very strongly. One was the issue of land tenure and one was the issue of migration. So what has been decided? What can we expect from the Delhi Declaration on these two issues?
Thank you.
We hope that sustainable land management and effective restoration will definitely impact positively on reducing the migration and other issues also. And so this has to be thrust. And about land tenure, there is a discussion going on which there will be some reflection in the Delhi Declaration also.
Okay. I would like to take question after question so that we move pretty quickly and they have an opportunity to put their thoughts together. Yes, please, at the end there.
Hi, my name is Ishan. I'm from Down to Earth magazine. I have two questions, one to Mr. Theo and one to Mr. Javadekar. To Mr. Theo, my question is, sir, one of the managing directors of the global mechanism said that the yearly amount required to fight or combat desertification is around $450 billion annually. What is the status of the fund right now? Do we have enough money? That's my first question. The second question is to Mr. Javadekar. Sir, in today's commitments, we talked about 21 million hectares under Bond Challenge and then 5 million. Sir, Bond Challenge would essentially mean plantations and afforestation. Do we have any data on the prior monitoring or survival rate of the plantations which were done earlier under CAMP or any other program? And what will we do in future to monitor those plantations? Thank you.
Mr. Tiao first.
Thank you very much. The question is, if I understand correctly, whether we have been successful in mobilizing sufficient funding to combat desertification in the world. The simple answer is no. The simple answer is that we are still far short of the resources that are needed to reverse the trends of degradation that we are seeing in the world today. Many countries are investing their own funds, many communities, many farmers are doing a lot in terms of investing in their own resources, but we are not yet at scale. We have very generous donors who are also providing funding. We have the global funds, like the Global Environmental Facility, but the resources that are available today to address land degradation are not sufficient. But let me also clarify that we need public funding as much as we need private investments. Public funds alone will not be sufficient, because part of the problem we are facing today is precisely due to private investments that in the first place degraded the land. Therefore, it is very important that we mobilize sufficient private investors to come and invest for business sake on land restoration. Therefore, when you say resource mobilization, it's sounds like someone has to mobilize resources for someone else. First of all, everybody has to invest their own resources at the national level. When they need additional support, of course, they should be supported because it is critically important. But my second point is private investments. I'm not saying privatization of land. Let me just be very clear. I'm saying private investments on land in relation with communities, in relation with the population that are concerned, and have direct contacts with these communities, agreements with them, so as to have investments that will be sustainable, that will be preserved, but that will be also making benefits, generating benefits for everybody. Thank you.
Your second question about how we monitor new afforestation. A good question. We have already set up mechanism in place where every plant will be geotagged and every tree's growth will be annually monitored, not only through faraway satellites, but through chips and through many other science and technology instruments, by drone photography also. And now we want to showcase that if certain part of forest has to be deforested for certain important national project, then the compensatory afforestation plot also should be earmarked and should be shown as this is a direct relationship, this project, and now this is compensatory afforestation plus additional afforestation. So now on you can take it. It will be 24/7 monitoring in a way.
Okay, so I'll take 5 questions in a row, and then we'll come back to the answers. At the back, please. The lady at the back. The lady at the back, thank you.
My question is to the Environment Minister. Sir, the PM talked about the plastic ban. What I want to ask is, do we have the capability to cater to the demand for eco-friendly products that will arise out of this ban? And do we have any system in place to remove the plastic that's already in circulation?
Clarify what Prime Minister said. He has not said ban. He has said say goodbye to single-use plastic. So he is not talking about all plastics. He is categorically making an appeal to people to say goodbye to single-use plastic. Because in single-use plastic like thermocol or flex materials, we see which is very difficult to recycle or non-recyclable. So single-use plastic is what is, and he said, collect all plastic waste. That's what we will be doing from 2nd October. And because every day in India, 30,000 tons of plastic waste is generated, out of which 20,000 gets collected, 10,000 remains in open, which is the problem. So uncollected waste is a problem. So that you have to do it. So there are two movements simultaneously. One, waste collection, waste processing, waste management. And second is, say no to single-use plastic. This is the...
Thank you, Excellency. Can I just appeal to our journalists, please, to not ask questions that are outside the subject area in order to give the time to...
I will have my own press conference afterwards, not here. So here you concentrate on desertification, because that COP-related questions are welcome here. I am always available as Information Minister. You are always coming, so welcome.
Okay, let me take the next 5 questions, and it will be 1, 2, and 3, please. And introduce yourself, please.
प्रकाश जी, सवाल आपसे योगेश भारद्वाज पब्लिक एशिया से। आपने कहा कि हम वन क्षेत्रों को बढ़ाएंगे और भारत में प्रदूषण को रोकने के लिए बहुत अच्छे प्रयास हुए हैं, नो डाउट। मेरा सवाल ये है कि केंद्र सरकार जो प्लान बना रही है वन क्षेत्रों को बढ़ाने का, तो बुंदेलखंड के क्षेत्र में जहाँ ये समस्या है, वहाँ सरकार का दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन जो कल आप पेश करने जा रहे हैं, उसमें उन सूखा क्षेत्रों के प्रति आपने कुछ शामिल किया है या नहीं?
प्रदेश को भी हमने कैंपा का पैसा दिया है, और अभी 15 फाइनेंस कमीशन का रिपोर्ट आएगा, उसमें भी होगा। लेकिन मैं फिर से बता रहा हूँ सभी पत्रकारों को कि टुडे लेट अस कॉन्सेंट्रेट ऑन कॉप फॉर डेजर्टिफिकेशन. All other Indian issues and programs, you are always welcome and will communicate.
Next, please.
I am J.L. Kaul Jalali, a freelancer. I have 2 questions. One question is UNCCD or any other UN organization taking overt or covert steps to see that USA also returns to Paris Agreement? Because ultimately that will be very beneficial for the whole of the world. And I see, as I guess it, Mr. Trump is prone to make some changes, as he has done in Afghanistan and all that. He may be able to do some changes in that respect also, because US participation is also very important. Number two is about tenure systems in our country. Is there some improvement proposed or more improvements taking place? I quote example of Kashmir. In 50 they had wholesale tenure changes there. Of course, that has not all been good, but it resulted in some good things over there.
Okay.
Did I understand the question correctly? Whether is your question
Yes.
whether the US is at the table? Or
USA,
UNCCD?
yes. We should,
The United
attempt
States
should be there to bring USA back into this Paris Agreement.
The United States is a party
That
to
will
the
be,
UNCCD.
yes, that will be good for the whole world.
Okay.
The United States is a party to the UNCCD.
Exactly. You have a convention
Excuse
also.
me, sir.
This, he is
Excuse me, sir.
answering. You have to listen and close the mic.
So I was saying the United States is a party to the UNCCD, and they are an active party to the UNCCD. They are actually in the bureau of the COP. They were in the bureau of COP13, they are in bureau of COP14, and they have a delegation here negotiating. So they are at the table.
Okay.
Let me just add to that. We continue to engage the United States on the climate agenda, in spite of whatever level of leadership may agree or not agree. That's the point of keeping the space open for those discussions. The US is a critical partner in ensuring that climate change is addressed through the actions that we must have. What I can say is that we have had successful engagement with business and with the subnational levels of the US, which contribute to climate change. So it's participating with the US at different levels and hoping that we will get them where we need them to close the gap. But we don't stop, we keep the doors open, and as my colleague said, they are an active part of the UNCCD.
Okay, thank you. We have the two gentlemen here. Yes.
Yes, I'm Vishnu Mohan. I'm from the Times of India newspaper. I have two questions, one from the Deputy Secretary General and another for COP14 President. May I ask one question to Deputy Secretary General, since she also mentioned about the upcoming UN Climate Action Summit. It is pretty clear that whatever the country has pledged so far as part of their NDC is not enough to solve the problem, solve the climate change problem. So what do you expect from the countries in terms of pledges during the Climate Action Summit? And as far as the Green Climate Fund is concerned, there is hardly money on the table. So what's your take on this? And my second question is to Mr. Javadekar. Since we're talking about the raising the ambition, will India raise its NDC ambitions during this Climate Action Summit in New York, or is there any future plan about it?
Principle, it's a specific interpretation of today's Prime Minister's speech. It's not a general guideline.
Okay. Yes, sorry.
I'm just asking whether the India will raise its NDC ambitions during that upcoming UN Climate Action
Today,
Summit.
issue is restoration of land target, and that we have said.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Full
Yes.
My
stop.
question, yeah.
Secretary
Okay, let
General.
me see if I can attempt to answer this. Look, clearly the NDCs are not where they're supposed to be across the globe. They're at 3.2 degrees. We need them at 1.5 degree world. And so that's the challenge, is that by COP26 in 2020, the target is to have increased NDCs with better ambition. So we're asking countries and other communities, constituencies of the private sector and otherwise, to come with commitments. So far, what we've seen is over 60 countries coming with commitments to enhance their NDCs. Is that going to be sufficient? Well, at least we know we have opened the gates now to see what the indications will be over the next year. So that the summit is not going to be the first and last stop. It is the first step towards seeing some concrete action. And we are seeing some good indications from our member states. The minister is quite right. We saw today an indication already of India going past its NDC commitment just with the issue of restoration. And that's an indication. It's clearly not enough. And we would like to hope that we will get more, so we will be trying to persuade our colleagues in India to do so. I will say there's considerable engagement from the financial sector, which is really important because we see that there is a barrier to doing all these things that we need to do if we don't get the resources. So we are seeing public funds move. We are not correct in saying that the GCF so far doesn't have money on the table. It does. Member states have doubled their contributions, and that's a good signal towards COP in the next 2 weeks. Sorry, not COP, the climate summit in the next 2 weeks. We hope thereafter at the replenishment, others will come on board. And we are, every day, member states are encouraged by the doubling that we've seen from France, from the UK, from the Netherlands on all of this. It's continuous engagement. That's really what it's about. And I think that we've started a momentum that is quite frankly unstoppable. And it's unstoppable because we have so much engagement from young people. Young people that are professionals, that are activists, that are really putting their first and best foot forward, but they're doing it with a lot of energy, a lot of vision, and a lot of urgency. That's the difference from what we've had in the years gone by since we signed on to the Paris Agreement.
Okay, Ibrahim, did you want to add on to that at all? Did you want to add on to that at all? Okay, so I'll take the last three questions. I think we've run out of time. We've run out of time, so I'll take the last three questions. And it's the lady behind there and the gentleman here, I think he's been asking for the floor. Is this the second time? No. Okay, so the first time was this lady at the back, please, if you could go.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm Maitri from the Hindu Business Line, right here. My question is to all the three members in the panel who may ever want to take it. This is regarding the global carbon credits and the carbon market. So basically, certain studies have shown that the carbon credits do not, they are not sold adequately because the demand is less and the supply is higher. And also the cost per carbon credit should ideally be around $22, and right now it fetches around $7 in the market. So there have also been suggestions that we should move ahead from the market-based mechanism to more fund mechanism in helping indigenous communities, like save their forests. So what are your thoughts on that? Is it helping?
Okay, if you let me, I will ask the gentleman there. Ole, please.
मैं अमर उजाला से हूँ। मेरा क्वेश्चन COP14 प्रेसिडेंट से है कि भारत में डिजास्टर।
Excuse me, sir. May I ask the gentleman behind you? The gentleman behind you.
That's fine.
Wale or Jetini, please.
Yes, I'm from the News Agency of Nigeria. My question is for the UNCCD Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General, the UNCCD Executive Secretary. Competition for land resources has become major sources of conflicts in the Sahel region, across the Sahel region. And this has led to fatal clashes between herdsmen and farmers and claiming so many lives over the last decade. What programs are in place by the UNCCD to address these challenges? Thank you.
Okay. I'll take one more from an international journalist, please. If there's an international journalist here, please, right there. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, it's working now. Sorry. I'm Ludo Bello. I'm from Bloomberg BNA, and my question is for the COP president. I would like to know a bit more about how this pledge of against desertification in India that has been ramped up this week will work in practice. So how much will it cost, and how much, if we have an idea already, how much territory would become agricultural land, how much would be forest, and what will this commitment entail in practice? What are the steps and a timeline, if possible?
Yeah. You are asking question to Indian Environment Minister and not to COP President. So we'll restrict today to COP, and I'll answer you separately. I can give you interview.
Lovely.
Okay. DSG, please.
Well, perhaps I'll let my colleague answer on the details, but one of those, you're absolutely right that the challenges in the Sahel have been around conflict and different types of conflict. The exacerbation that climate change has brought to Lake Chad, we have seen the terrorism there that has grown with Boko Haram, but also the farmers and the herdsmen. The initiative that has started a decade ago has really come to be of even more of a need today than ever of the Great Green Wall. And that really is about an ecosystem, a corridor across the whole of the Sahel that will not only bring livelihoods, but power and a restoration of the land that is needed there. And this is what we have from UNCCD promoting that and really calling on our partners to scale up the Great Green Wall. It's not that it hasn't started, but it is not running ahead of what the demographics are doing in terms of the land issues and urbanization and that tension between our herders and our farmers who have to provide for food. But maybe my colleague can give more details.
Yes, indeed. Land degradation, as we have always said, that land degradation has a security dimension. The security dimension is when communities fight for access to land and water. Land is degrading, the population is growing, so the demand is growing, whilst the resources are shrinking. Therefore, you reach a tipping point where people that were living in peace and harmony amongst themselves would start competing. It is not only farmers and herders. It may happen within a village, within a family even, because it is basically competing for food production. They need to feed their families. They need to raise their animals. What is being done and what the UNCCD is doing, first and foremost, we support countries in having land use plans. There is a serious problem of land use planning. In most cases, actually, there is no proper land use planning. Second is to support local authorities. We have local mayors, subnational authorities that should be managing natural resources and should be given the power to actually legislate and make decisions at the local level. Third is to help policies both at the national level but also at the regional level, because some of these herders that we are talking about, they migrate from one country to another. Therefore, they cannot be contained simply because there's a colonial rule colonial decision that decided that this is the border of a country or another. These communities, they live across borders and they have their pastures in one part or the other of different countries. So, for example, in the Sahel, you have the ECOWAS that has regional plans for transhumance, and corridors have been established, negotiated, and so forth. Maybe a little bit too technical for many. What we also recommend countries to do is to have very good water management plans, because quite honestly, it is dry in the Sahel, but actually they have water, and with very good water management systems, they can create water points, and they can improve the resilience of their communities and of their animals. Last point is about drought. These countries used to have droughts every 10 years, or every 12 years, or every 15 years. Now, every other year, you have drought somewhere in a country. And that has to be better prepared. They need early warning systems, they need preparedness, and they need response to drought. So it's a package of solutions that will be needed. It may sound complicated, but unless we have that holistic view, we may actually resolve a conflict somewhere between two communities, but you will see resurgence somewhere else. Or you can have peace agreements negotiated, as is the case in many parts of the Sahel at the moment, but unless you address the root cause, you will see relapse of the conflicts. We may have a longer conversation if you wish, but it is fundamentally one of the important issues that we need to discuss.
Okay, I want to thank our panelists this afternoon, and I want to thank you also for being here this afternoon. It was a very short panel, but I think we've done a lot, and I want to thank our panelists so very much. Could you please wait and be seated as they leave, and can we give them a round of applause as they leave? Thank you.